Hello, I'm the Street Genius. Let's talk about something that doesn't make headlines often, but should terrify you more than any tweet, tax, or TikTok trend. Is the US Federal Reserve still independent? Because as of mid-2025, more and more economists are saying no, and that's a problem. You see, the Fed was built to be boring in a good way. Its job is to manage inflation, stabilize the economy, and adjust interest rates based on data, not drama. But what happens when politics starts knocking at its door? Or worse, kicks it open? According to a July 2025 Reuters poll, over 60% of economists believe the Fed's independence is under serious threat. Why? One name, Donald Trump. Since his re-emergence into the political spotlight, Trump has made no secret of his belief that the Fed should cut rates fast, deep and preferably right before elections. And this isn't a new thing. Even during his presidency, Trump constantly pressured the Fed, famously criticizing then-Chair Jerome Powell for not being aggressive enough. But now it's more than words. Trump allies are being lined up to take influential roles. Pressure is rising to align monetary policy with political goals. And once that line is crossed, once the Fed starts doing what's good for politics, instead of what's right for the economy, the system breaks. Let's break this down. The Federal Reserve's power is enormous. It controls the cost of borrowing for consumers, businesses, and even the government. When the Fed raises rates, credit becomes expensive. When it cuts, cheap money flows into the system. These decisions aren't just technical, they shape your life, your mortgage, your job, your savings, your rent. Now imagine those decisions being driven not by economists, but by campaign teams. That's not just reckless, that's dangerous. Right now, inflation in the US has cooled down from its 2022-23 peak. The economy is stabilizing, though still fragile. A premature rate cut could overheat things again. But that's exactly what Trump wants, because in the short term, lower rates make the economy feel stronger. Markets rise, unemployment drops slightly, consumers spend more. But it's a sugar high, and after the sugar rush comes the crash. The irony, Trump, a businessman, should understand long-term stability over short-term optics. But when elections are in play, optics often win. Let's look back in history. In the 1970s, political interference in monetary policy led to one of the worst inflation spirals in US history. The Fed was bullied into keeping rates low to support political agendas. The result? Stagflation, a nightmare mix of high inflation and high unemployment. It took years of pain and sky-high interest rates under Volcker in the 1980s to bring things back under control. That experience taught the US a painful, but clear lesson. The Fed must be independent. Today we're flirting with that same mistake. Now let's be clear, the Fed is not perfect. Critics say it's slow to react, sometimes too academic, sometimes disconnected from real life. But you know what's worse? A Fed that reacts to tweets instead of trends. A Fed that prints money on political command. A Fed that bends to power instead of managing it. Because the moment the markets think the Fed is politically compromised, faith collapses. And markets don't run on money. They run on trust. Investors will hesitate. Foreign governments will question the dollar's stability. Inflation expectations will rise. And the average American? They'll feel it in food prices, rent, credit card bills, everything. It's the kind of invisible crisis that hits hardest. So what can be done? First, leadership at the Fed has to stay firm. Jerome Powell and his successors must continue to anchor decisions in data, not campaign rhetoric. Second, the media and the public need to pay attention. This is not boring economic news. This is democracy's nervous system being tampered with. And third, we need to ask ourselves something. Do we want our economy run by economists? Or by politicians? Because the truth is, once independence is lost, it's almost impossible to get it back. Let me leave you with this. The Fed is like the brakes on a car. Sometimes it slows things down when we want to go faster. But if we cut the brakes just to feel speed, we won't like how the ride ends. Thanks for listening. See you in the next episode. And remember, real power doesn't shout, it calculates.